So, here we are going through the book of Daniel. And so today we jump right into it, chapter 1. Now, if you've been in Sunday school, common story, okay? Daniel is not necessarily something new. One of the things that is most famous for is being thrown in a lion's den and then coming out alive. We who are in Kenya and our Savo is here, lions are part of our lives. So that's one of the most common stories that we know about Daniel. There are sections of Daniel that people do not read at all. He starts stories and then he starts prophecies of statues and clay, and you go like, okay, Sasa, this is where you lose me, Daniel. Thank you. You are out of the lion's den. The rest we will leave for the prophets. So, headache is we can't run away from it. It is there. So, chapter 1. Let us read from verse 1 all the way to 16. I will read from the NIV. Join me. Verse 1. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hands, along with some of the articles of the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put it in the treasure house of his God. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that, they were to enter the king's service. Among those who were chosen from Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, the chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, Belteshazzar; to Hananiah, Shadrach; to Mishael, Meshach; and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself in this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. Verse 10. But the official told Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned you food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king will then have my head because of you. Verse 11. Daniel said to the guard of whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servant for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. He agreed to do this and tested them for 10 days. Verse 15. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. Now, one of the things that sometimes has come out of this, if you're ever in a church and there's fasting and prayer period, the Daniel's fast, where you only eat vegetables and water. So I will not talk to you about your diet. Maybe ladies will talk about it on Saturday. But what does this have to do with us today? At face value, Israel is taken captive. Okay? So another nation comes and rules over them. But whatever the story is being given about these young men, it's like, okay, if you're going into captivity, you need to be suffering. Sort of. You're taken and you're being offered food from the king's table. You're being offered education. You're being groomed. You're thinking, okay, if this is the kind of suffering, that is an upgrade. That is an actual upgrade. So, yeah, the rest of you suffer, but Mimi, life seems to be going on the rise. But at this point, the nation of Israel, as we know, so a bit of history, has been split into two kingdoms. Okay? Northern kingdom, Israel. Southern kingdom, Judah. Northern kingdom at this point has been taken away by another empire called Assyria. Babylon comes in, wipes out everyone, okay? And comes in and takes in now the southern kingdom called Judah. So at this point, complete nation of Israel is no longer free. So they have all been taken. Reason, simple, unfaithfulness. That's the simple reason. They had plunged into a system of worshiping other gods. It almost depended on who is the leader, then will be faithful. If the leader is good, they will toe the line. If it's not, they won't. And the back and forth of worshiping other gods, returning back to faithfulness, then falling away again, God kept sending prophets to warn them. Hey, turn back, or this will happen. Turn back, turn back, turn back. And the time finally ran out. And at face value, all hope is gone. Because when you think about it, if you are two kingdoms from the same heritage, your brothers up north who are more than you got taken, never came back. There's no hope. Judah, at the bottom half, are only two tribes. When they get taken, you're thinking, if those guys were more and they've never been able to regain back their independence, how much more us? So, doesn't help. Now, the person that is taking over, Nebuchadnezzar, as we sang the crazy king, has a plan. It seems like a very wise and learned king, because he has a 3-year plan for these guys that he wants to take. So nothing is random. From as you conquer the land, take specific men. And when you look at the description, young men, okay, they're young, okay, without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning. So if you're good looking, but when you're danda, ole. Okay? Quick to understand and qualified to serve in what? The king's palace. There is a saying in Kiswahili, samaki mkunje mgali mbichi. Okay? That means you can fold a fish when it is still, that is a direct translation, when it is still raw, uncooked. Hence the reason, take these young men. Because once they are trained, once they acquire all these new skills, the point is to make them forget their past and make them ready to serve their new master, who is Nebuchadnezzar and the kingdom of Babylon. And when you think about the problem Israel had, they wanted to be like other nations, worshiping other gods and all that. So if that is the state you are in, we are always admiring other nations, and these guys come take you captive. Yes, it is sad you're being taken captive, but then you're offered this, you're thinking, this is better. I actually wanted to be like you guys. So God's providence at work, say amen. And you jump on the opportunity full swing. Because I don't have to deal with priests, I don't have to deal with an angry God who will wake up one day and go like, you guys are disobeying me, and then start sending armies and whooping people. You're thinking, we are now going to the guys who are ruling people, and I'm getting positions over there, and I am young, and I can learn. Wase, Wende. They can finally be part of what they admired. Now, among those chosen are 4 Jewish boys. It is believed they're about 15 years old. One of them is called Daniel. So, his name means God is my judge. In the midst of all this chaos, we are told of an official called Aspenaz, chief eunuch. The king gives this guy a task. You are in charge. It's like he's set up a discipleship program, I would say. All these young men are under your care. Okay? Take them through this 3-year program. The closest we see to that is like what Esther went through. And at the end of these 3 years, the king himself, they'll be presented before the king himself, and he will test them to see who is fit. So, somehow, Daniel and his friends gain favor with this guy, Ashpenaz. And because of that favor, he goes to him and says, please allow me to pass on the food assigned to me from the king's table. And he responds, no. Daniel's motivation, the scripture says, he did not want to defile himself in this way. So, what does that mean? What about the food defiled him? When you think about it today, whatever is put before you, you munch it without thinking twice. You ask maswali mbele mbele. That's common. What are we eating today? It is this. We go and eat. What about this specific food made him say, allow us not to defile ourselves in this way with the royal food and wine? One of the assumptions is part of their religion was some of this food is being offered to idols before it is put on the table. Okay? So if it is coming from the king's table and coming down to you guys, that might be one of the assumptions. This food has been offered to whatever god they pray to, come eat it. So in eating it is in worship to that god. That can be one. The other, the Jews observed certain rules in regards to what they can eat and what they cannot eat, clean and unclean. So maybe, some of the things they were given to eat will be considered unclean. Hence, him saying, allow me this. Now, Ashpenaz has reservations. And he says this, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. So the issue here isn't Daniel. The issue here isn't whatever you guys are crazy. The issue isn't him. And he's honest. The other odd thing about this is Daniel is talking to the person that represents a group of people that have captured them. Yet somehow he's found favor, and there's no animosity. None. And he's trying to use that to the advantage. But the official says this, why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would have my head because of you. And so the fear is, if we go that route and you guys start looking scrawny and thin, I am in trouble. So the issue, we won't even come down to you. I am in trouble. It is akin to the schools we went to. You have a class prefect or class monitor. And the whole class is running around making noise. And the teacher walks in, give me the list of noisemakers, and it does not exist. Who is in trouble at that point? Saile prefect is being punished. The rest of you are happy. You're like, yes. It's akin to that. Okay? And it is interesting that a man of such high level of authority is having a conversation with a 15-year-old boy. These are not equals. Okay? Don't think the Daniel you see in the Anamandevu, no. A 15-year-old boy and this official are having this conversation. And this man is that honest with this 15-year-old boy that if we go your route, my head is on the line. Because one of the things this man reveals is just the status if you worked for the king. If you do not have results, guess what happens? Your head is on the line. Because if it doesn't go as planned, I'm sure sometimes we feel that way about some of our leaders. Like to a rule, if you don't deliver, my friend, your head, if you want to take this job, deliver. If you don't, interesting. Daniel doesn't push. He doesn't. He wanted to honor God, asks the chief eunuch. He says no, gives reason for why he's saying no. Daniel doesn't push anymore. But the question still remains. Will he honor God, or will he just go like, okay, we are going on a hunger strike at this point? One of the things sometimes you might face, sometimes you might not. How you choose to honor God ends up putting someone else at a crosshair. Because their choice to honor God puts the eunuch at crosshairs with the king. Most of the time we encounter scenarios where the person in charge is against you worshiping or honoring God. Your prayer is, God, remove this person because I want to honor God. They are the reason why I do not want to. They are the main reason. In this regard, the eunuch is not the headache. Daniel can honor God. But who will take the brunt of the issues? The eunuch. A different scenario. So what does he do? Verse 11. Then Daniel said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over them. So he goes to the next person below. And he has a plan. Test out your servants in this. Give us nothing to drink. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. Because even at this point, it's clear. He and his friends are very aware of what has happened. Disobedience and sin has led the nation to be taken in captive. So, 15-year-old boy in captivity decides, you know what? I choose to walk in obedience even when the situation looks like God has left us. Because the Bible states when the temple was built and the Spirit of God came in, only the Levites were allowed to serve in there, and only the priests were allowed to go into the Holy of Holies. That's the actual reality. Okay? Now, even into the Holy of Holies to offer, it was only once a year. Uingii tu kaa venye unaingia kwa choo. So you don't just walk in there like, vipi sagodi, mimi wewe hapa mzee. Nah. So when a pagan nation, verse 2, comes in, invades, and it says this: the Lord delivered Joachim, king of Judah, into his hands, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. And he carried this off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put it in the treasures of the house of his God. So, a place where Israelites normally don't just walk in, a pagan guy walks in, grabs stuff, walks out, na hakuna radi. And you're sitting there wondering, okay, what has happened? Because all this while we know, one wrong move, you're dead. Our own priests go in there with a rope. You're dead. The father of John the Baptist goes in there to offer sacrifice, stays a long time. People outside are panicking. This guy is taking too long. He's not coming out. Because that was the system. So when a pagan nation is doing that, coming in, what has happened? God has left the building. God has left the building. So if God has left the building, what does 15-year-old boys have to do with obeying God in a foreign land? He has left the building. Be merry, have life, party, jibambe, who cares? God has left the building. Because the temple was central to their worship system. And even though Daniel and his friends were unplugged from his people, from their home, he knew one thing: I can never be unplugged from God's presence. Doesn't matter where you take me. I can never be unplugged from God's presence. And so maybe this was motivation enough to honor God irrespective of where he was, even when it seemed God has left the building. The contrast, if you choose to see it, that though the temple where God's Spirit resided had been defiled in a sense, because pagans came in and took stuff. Daniel chose not to defile himself. So, problem that is not unsolved. His resolve to obey God puts another at risk. So what does he do? Because this man, the Bible says, he found favor and compassion with. So do we look at the eunuch and say you are a coward? If you love Daniel, he's found favor with you, you have compassion, why not allow him? Are you afraid? What are you afraid of? I mean, you have power. What are you afraid of? At his disposal, he had all he needed to ensure Daniel and his companions come out as the king wanted. Daniel's role in this, he honors the fears of the eunuch and tries to find an alternative route to honor God. Because, again, as I say, sometimes obedience, that's kind of what we're used to, is used to shame and be a tool against the enemies of God. God chose to use my obedience as a display of your righteousness. That I am faithful to you. Use that to overcome the enemy. That's not the case here. Especially for us who are in the marketplace. Not everyone is against you. I know a lot of times you go like, hey, the boss I have, the supervisor I have. In some cases, you actually have a lot of favor with those who are over you. That's sometimes an actual reality. And some of the reality is your faithfulness to God might end up causing chaos to them, not the other way around. So they're not against you. But the road you walk is causing chaos to who? To them. The results of your decision are a reflection on them. So what does God require? For you to still honor him in the midst of the calm seas you experience. That you ask him for wisdom on how to navigate that space. Verse 11, Daniel asks the guard whom the chief official had appointed over them. 12, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. He agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. His commitment isn't some sort of fanatism. Lazima. Wajifanya matuzuia siyo. You want us to not obey. We will obey whether you like it or not. We will show you. Our God is bigger and greater than all of you and your gods. He had a subtle way in the midst of a pagan system to still figure out how can I honor and obey God. The fear, they will stick out. Malnutrition. That when I present you before the king, he will ask, why are these three looking? And the information is they were not eating, I'm dead. Verse 15, at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. The route he found someone, for whatever reason, was willing to take the risk because there was a cut-off point. If I try and it fails, we revert back to normal system. Yet the opposite happened. If the issue was fear of malnutrition, they still stood out. The issue was not that they will not stick out, they still stood out. And it was very evident even to the guard that at the end of it, Daniel and his friends looked healthier than the others. Now, that was not the reason why Daniel chose to honor God. It wasn't, I will eat vegetables and water so that, you can see. So that you can see that God is powerful. I want to show you. Our God is, you do not know our God, you're about to meet our God. None of that. It wasn't a show off of God. It wasn't. It was simply a young boy who wants to honor God. Because when he looks back, he sees a nation, a tribe, a system that he's been part of, that has walked in unfaithfulness for years and years and years and years and years. And what is the result? There they are in captivity. All he wants to do is honor God. That's it. That's it. And what God did with that was God's decision in the end. He showed him how to navigate that space. He gave them favor with his people. So there's something that these young boys knew. It wasn't fanaticism because they didn't even reject their names. They didn't go like, we do not want your pagan names. We will retain our own Jewish names. It wasn't that. Simple, I literally just want to honor God. Daniel's goal wasn't to find a mountain to die on. No. So, why did God leave the temple, quote unquote, and seems to be with these boys in this space? It's odd. The temple system is gone. They cannot offer sacrifices for their sins. That happened every single day. In the morning, there was a sacrifice. In the evening, there was a sacrifice. If you read Leviticus and Deuteronomy, there are so many laws about the sacrifices you have to offer. All that is gone. So, if you don't have a way to make yourself presentable and clean before God in a pagan place, how will God still show up? You have no way to pursue your old way of life. You have no way to make yourself right with God again. How will God show up? Yet somehow, oddly, God honored these young men who, not Levites, didn't offer sacrifice, didn't present an unblemished dove, goat, lamb to the temple. Yet he honored them simply because they wanted to honor God. So question number 2. When everything is stripped away, everything you have when it's stripped away, do you still have a relationship with God? Take away their home, their religious system, even their names. The one thing the king could not take from them was their relationship with God. Even though the whole nation had crumbled, but these young men, their relationship with God could not be stripped away. So do you have that? Do you have a relationship with God? What is happening in your life that has the power to make you walk away? And go like, I've tried this. The t-shirts that we loved, it's a phrase. Been there, done that, bought a t-shirt. Christianity, I've had my part. I've experienced it. Been part of Bible studies, read through the Bible, been through several churches, charismatic, evangelistic, all those. I've experienced all that. What is it that can make you walk away from God? Remember this, as we have seen in Daniel, that even under chaos, even under oppression, even when all is stripped away, even when things don't make sense, even when we are alone, even when how to honor him doesn't seem very clear, even when you do not know how tomorrow will look like. See Daniel, that even under chaos, he is still God and he is still good. Amen?